How do you avoid having muddy bass like this? We're going to be using some acoustic and some electronic examples to walk you through the problems of this. We'll be dealing with 4 areas. Number 1, things that sound bad when played low can sound fine when you play them high. Number 2 is about overcrowding of the bass. Number 3, we're going to look at the science of bass notes. And number 4, we'll look at some classic ways of cleaning up your bass so that it sounds good. Just a little warning here, if you're listening to this on a phone or a really small speaker in a laptop, there's things that you might not be able to hear. We're talking about the really low notes in the piece that you might need a bigger speaker to hear. So let's listen to that example again. You can see the score there. It doesn't sound terrible, but it's just a bit woolly. If I played that example 2 octaves higher, it would sound fine. Clear as day. Here's a piece by Thelonious Monk, another example. You can hear there's a lot going on, actually, bass-wise there, and it sounds fine, this chord sequence. Monk's really, really carefully chosen where to put it. If I put it down an octave, not so good. If I play it up an octave, absolutely fine. Absolutely classic problem. What's going on here? Number 2, overcrowding the bass. If I take, say, the first chord of this rising sequence that I just played, this one here, just that chord, an F-7 chord, for those who like their chords, I simply overcrowd the bass by just moving these top 2 notes down an octave. It starts to sound a lot muddier. What's going on here? Well, it's really, the best way of explaining it is probably to go into the science a little bit of bass notes. If you're not interested in the science, you're welcome to skip, but you might learn something if you stick around. Number 3, the science of bass notes. Here we go. I'm not going to go into a huge amount of detail, but I do think it's worth trying to get your head around some of this stuff. I play a G. Here's a sample of that note. I want you to listen to that again and see if you can hear other notes hidden in that note. Can you hear this note? And maybe this note? These notes? Maybe you can't. I'm going to zoom in. Can you see these stripes here in this picture? This is a picture of the note. This is the low register of that chord. And I can pick out the very low parts of it. That's the very bass of it. But hidden in there are other notes. And those are called partials or harmonics. It's kind of interesting that you get the lowest note and then the next few partials are G, B, and D, which is a G major chord. So every time you're hitting a note on a piano or on any musical instrument, you're hearing a major chord. That's why major chords sound so sweet to us. If I go higher up in there, you'll hear, instead of getting notes that sound nice, you start to get these ones that sound really weird with the note, like this. Lots of strange little notes that all make up. They get quieter and quieter as you go up, but they're still very much audible. Basically, you're hearing all these dozens and dozens of notes playing together every time you hit a low note. So the really crucial thing to get your head around here is that with a bass note, all those weird notes are in the audible range. We could hear them. Whereas if I play a high G Look at the picture of that. It looks completely different. And all of those harmonics that are in the audible range are nice sounding notes. When we get to the weird notes, they're so quiet you can't even hear them. In other words, when you play a low note, you're getting dozens of notes all clashing together. When you're playing a high note, you're getting a really, really simple picture. And you can cluster together lots of high notes without any trouble at all. Classic things to do to avoid a muddy bass. Number one, space out your chords. It's a kind of scientifically complex, but practically really, really simple. If you have a chord that is clustered like this sort of area, which would sound like this, and here's a picture of it. You can see it looks like a cloud. Tons of these weird note harmonics, all in the audible range, all messing with each other and sounding muddy. Space out the chord to be more like this sort of shape, and you get this picture. You can see the little stripes in the picture. You can hear the clarity, because I've moved some of those notes higher up, spaced them out, and all of those high, nasty notes are inaudible right up at the top, so they're not bothering our ears. Simple. Next, use octaves, tenths, fifths when you're playing stuff in the bass register. Octaves always sound good, even if you play them low. But you'll also find that fifths sound great. They start to get muddy if you go really low, but they work pretty well. Tenths, that's how I just count up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Sound absolutely superb. Again, they get a little bit muddy if you go too low, but they're pretty useful. Whereas closely packed ones, thirds, start to get muddy really quickly. Be careful about fast passages in bass. Of course, you can make a fast passage work, but there is a reason. If we listen to this one, put it in a loop. It's very indistinct. It's difficult to hear what the actual notes are. In a minute, I'll show you how you can make things like this work, but it's not the easiest thing to get right. And there is a reason why bass lines tend to be, to have more space in them, to have fewer notes in the bar, especially if the ear is trying to pick out maybe a vocal melody or something higher up. It's very easy to destabilize your piece by having too much energy down there in the bass register. Our next point is to either double the bass line with something brighter or add a brighter sound in which is playing the same notes. I can demonstrate that really, really simply by taking this synth and just opening the filter, and I'm just basically making it more trebly. I'm not taking away the bass, I'm just adding more treble. Suddenly we can hear the notes finally. Actually sort of doesn't sound like it's too fast anymore. Or another tactic I could take is literally to play either a different or the same synth sound a few octaves up. I could go back to my original low sound here and add. And again, I can hear the notes clear as day now, no problem. Now you hear this effect in pretty much every single style. We already talked about having octaves in the piano, but also you find it in orchestras where the double bass will play an octave lower than the cello, pretty much as a standard thing in orchestral music. And you'll also hear it in all dance music styles. It's just a really classic thing, using the octaves. Next one, make your bass line have a sort of catchy rhythmic motif. You might find that even allows you to keep some speed if you put more space in. So rather than having something like this, which we decided was a bit muffly, but we could use that sound actually and those notes to make a riff. Remove all the notes that were in the middle, and suddenly I haven't changed any of the notes that you're hearing, I've just removed some. What I've done there is just created space. Instead of having a stream of notes, I put some air in between, and you're hearing them as little bite-sized chunks of tunes which are catchy. It becomes more like something that you could sing. And it's also creating space for you to add other things on top. There's more room for you for your vocal or what other sounds you want to put in. So bass is incredibly important especially in modern music. Headphones sound amazing these days, and so do even quite small speakers. So it's possible to really push the bass, but be aware that with that privilege of having such amazing bass sounds these days, you have to be really careful about how you control it so that it doesn't do more harm than good to your track.